Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday's lecture, the last one before we jump into daylight savings time lectures. Yes, that's a little gauntlet that we have to run for about a week, and then you go on spring break and you get 11 days to get that body clock reset. We're going to wrap up chapter 6 today, which is small business. And I think I'm going to start. By the way, on Monday it was great from a standpoint of there was a lot more dialogue. I love that. Sometimes less of me and more of you is a good thing. Some would argue most of the time that's a good thing. But we had a lot of people sort of putting input in and asking great questions. And we had good discussion on Monday, which pleased me to no end. So please keep that up. That's good stuff. I dug up some statistics about small businesses. And in aggregate, they're anything but small. I mean, you look at it, outside of farming, it says 97%, I didn't know this, it says 97% of all businesses in the U.S. are considered small business. I mean, everybody makes a lot of, and the big companies make the headlines, right, for reasons good or bad. But, and stock market frenzy occurs over the Amazons of the world and the Teslas and companies like that. But it's really the small business people. That's the lubricant that keeps the economic engine running. In the economics chapter, which was chapter 2, we talked about gross domestic product, and the gross domestic product is the aggregate of the goods and services produced by a country. Okay, so in the United States, the GDP total amount of goods and services produced. The number that they had in the book was over 50%. And again, I had no idea that it was that high. I knew it was a lot. I didn't know that over 50% of our gross domestic product came from small businesses. But it does. Outside of the government, over half the workers in the United States are hired by small businesses. And 80% of workers find their first job working for a small business. So there is there's nothing small about the aggregate of the small business world. I mean, and by the way, every semester I have a guest speaker come in, and it tends to be a community banker. Why? Because they're local. I mean, they take deposits locally. They have branches just locally. They loan locally. I mean, they tend to be the biggest lenders to small businesses, the biggest supporters of small businesses. So that's why I think they're a good example as far as bringing in somebody. And also, likewise, I mean, some of the students have good questions for them, and hey, is there somebody at your bank I can come talk to? And I bring in the CEO, and the CEO says, yeah, talk to, I'll give you this phone number, give them a call, that type of thing. So it's helpful stuff. At least I think it is, as far as local people trying to get a business started. And if nothing else, I mean, even if they're not going to hand you a check, they'll at least give you advice or guidance, or say, here's what you need to do to get to a check. Okay, so they'll tighten down your business plan a little bit, make it easier for you. And that's the thing. The more information you can get, this applies to just about every aspect of this course, is get as many opinions as you can. I mean, clearly, I try to bring to bear things I've seen in the business world and my years in it. But there's a lot of people out there that are very, very smart too, that they'll give you some good input, and aggregate as much information as you can and come to conclusions based on multiple opinions. And that's really sort of, it's with the business plans, because one thing in common with both of them is get somebody else to analyze it. And the more the merrier, quite frankly. Unless it's, I mean, if it's somebody who might steal your idea, hell no, of course not. But if it's somebody who's a friend, and somebody who, if someone's a true friend, they'll be constructively critical of it, and ask them to say, hey, look, I want your honest feedback here, and go ahead and hit me with your best shot on this stuff. So when small business is open, the book gets into, I'm not going to go through all the 20 reasons the book gives for why small businesses fail. I'm just going to go through a handful of them. But typically, the rough number people use is 50% of failure rate. I mean, there's a variety of ways to count it. The government does count a business that you sell within 5 years as a failed business. But if you sold it for a profit, it certainly isn't a failed business. It's a profitable business. So, but a closure within 5 years gets counted as a small business failure. So the number they typically toss around is 50%. So looking at the book real quick, like I said, this is page 151, and at the bottom in the orange section, they give a listing of reasons why that small businesses fail. So I'm just going to go through what I call the greatest hits. The first one's starting with too little capital. Absolutely. You're chomping at the bit to get your brilliant idea out to the market and to have people flying through the doors to purchase your goods or services. But you're not capitalized. Either you don't have the stock to take care of people who do come in, or you don't have the cash flow to maintain the business if people aren't coming in. Okay, I mentioned cash burn, and that's every month. That's your scorecard. Am I bringing in more than I'm putting out? And you need to have enough funding to be able to weather slow times until the business starts to pick up. Some things don't happen right away. I was in, this is probably a bad example, but I went into a liquor store probably just to pick up some lime juice or something. And a very friendly guy behind the counter, so we started talking. I said, "It's a very beautiful store you have here." I said, "It's really in this great location." And I said, "But if you don't mind me saying," I said, "I didn't even know you guys were here." I said, "I shop around here all the time, and today's the first day I realized that you exist." I said, and he said, "Well, they're really particular about the signage and stuff like that." I said, that's a shame because it's a great store. And, I almost, park in front of it sometimes and walk to another store without even realizing that you're here and you're a liquor store. Because, if I have sushi, I like to have sake with it. And if I'm having pasta, I like to have red wine with it, beer and pizza, that kind of thing. So, lo and behold, I drove past it this week, and they've got a big liquor sign across the outside of it, facing the main road. So I think they caught on to the concept that maybe they weren't getting the foot traffic they hoped they were getting, because nobody knew they were there. Like I said, I practically parked in front of them, and I didn't know they were there. So those are the kind of variables. Sometimes it just organically takes time to resonate. So again, starting with too little capital, because you're going to have ebbs and flows. And a corollary to that, or part and parcel of that, is attempting to do too much business with too little capital. Okay, buying too much on credit. Those interest rates are painful. Not understanding business cycles. Of course, Colorado is sort of the king of the business cycle states because of the ski industry, right? I mean, you have the ski season. So much is dependent, not just the mountain itself, but the surrounding bars and restaurants and hotels and condos. If the snow's good, they're going to come and they're going to stay and they're going to eat and they're going to drink and they're going to ski on top of all that. But it works in reverse. If the snow is bad, the snowboarders can't get out there and they're not going to rent condos, they're not going to eat in local restaurants, that type of thing. The little things that nibble away at your bottom line: insurance, taxes, miscellaneous utilities, miscellaneous expenses slowly bleed into your cash flow. So you need to pay attention to those things. So the next page is more of a happier picture. That's what you really want to look at too, is what factors increase chances of small business succeeding. Basically, if you have something unique to offer the marketplace, that's a huge help. If the neighborhood is lacking in something that is taken for granted in bigger neighborhoods, then if you can provide it locally, then you might get a lot of loyalty and you might get a lot of business. So that part of it's pretty good. And also paying attention to new customers, paying attention to new competitors. Those are some of the things that help you develop loyalty. I mean, if I walk into a place, and this applies to, there was a music club in LA I used to go to all the time, and then likewise a coffee shop. And, you know, I'd walk in, people would be like, hey, Bill, how's it going? Hey, Bill, you know, 2 or 3 people would say hello. And that's rocket fuel to get me to keep coming back. I mean, it's nice when someone acknowledges that you're more than just another protein-based life form. That you're actually, you know, a unique individual. And so there's an old TV show called Cheers, and the theme music talks about everybody knows your name type of place, and it feeds upon itself, okay? So there's that. So anyway, like I say, each of those categories, the reasons for failure, you know, are a longer list than the ones for success, but please do take a look at those, okay? And the next sort of area of it is learning about small business operations. And the book says learn from others, get some experience. As we talked, Jalen pointed out this yesterday. In the music business, everybody steals a little bit from somebody else. And I agree with that. You know, in the case of, if it's a platinum album, then there's more ramifications for that than if it's just something smaller. But yeah, there's a little bit of snipping away at this and snipping away at that to put it into the mix. And same thing with teachers. I mean, teaching. You know, when I first started Front Range, the first thing I did was, you know, just go to the local coffee shop and just sit out on the patio with a cup of coffee, and I just sort of took out a pencil and a piece of paper, started writing down things that my best professors and instructors did. Said, okay, this is the, you know, sort of best practices of teachers that I've had. It's clearly not a comprehensive list because my set of teachers is only a certain size, but it's a start, you know, and to think about, okay, this is what I really liked, and this teacher did this subject better than other teachers I've had doing the subject. So you sort of try to take a best practices approach. If you see people doing things well, again, go into the coffee shop, everybody says hello. On the flip side, I went into Voodoo Donuts in Portland. For those of you who've been to Portland, you've probably heard of Voodoo Donuts. And Voodoo Donuts has a certain vibe. I think I mentioned this earlier in the semester. And I walked in, I was going to a business meeting, but I heard the donuts are just like off the charts. And I needed a little extra coffee and sugar before going into this meeting. Because like most business trips, they're tiring. And so I said, okay, I'm going to get I've got an hour to kill. I'm going to go to Voodoo Donuts, get job and donuts, and then go to the meeting. And I was wearing a suit and tie, and I walked in, and they looked at me like I was the giant radioactive Easter bunny from Planet Destructo. It's like, dude, you lost? You know, it's like, no, yeah, I'll just get 2 of those to go, please, and a medium cup of coffee. Thank you. And I'll be on my way. So it wasn't a cultural fit. I mean, but it was great coffee and great donuts. I gotta hand it to them, you know. So, and it's good to, like I say, to bond with an alien species once in a while. So, both for them and for me. So, I mean, in LA, I had more friends with ink than friends who didn't, you know. So, I mean, it's just that's LA. That's the culture there. The other thing is find a mentor. Okay, so like when you go to work for a company, first of all, two groups you should hang out with. One, hang out with your peers, okay? Because really, the thing about college is that I always missed about when I graduated was that was really the last time in my life that I was completely surrounded by my peers. I mean, you go through, from elementary school to high school into, community college or a four-year school. And quite frankly, when I graduated, I was ready to graduate. I mean, I just wanted to get out into the working world, and I was sick of, doing exams and books. And I mean, it's hard. It is. And there's no getting around that. And so I was ready for my next adventure, that being the business world. But also, in retrospect, it's sort of like the best times are the ones you see in the rearview mirror. It was the last time in my life where I was really completely surrounded by my peers. Because then when I went into the business world, I was tossed into the mix with, 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40, 50, 60, 70-somethings. So I had my group of peers. So hang around with them because they're the ones that those are the shoulders you can cry on. I mean, they understand exactly what you're going through. People who are your age and sort of your same level on the corporate playing field. But also the ones at the oldest demographic make the best mentors. And I found that, talking to people who are like a year away from retirement, they're done climbing the corporate ladder. They're not looking for the next rung of the ladder to go up, and they've seen and been involved in so many political battles that they're just done with it. They're just waiting for that big retirement dinner, which is in the next 6 to 12 months. And if you approach them and say, "Hey, it seems like you've had a really successful career." I mean, gratuitously stroking somebody can only help, okay? And so just say, "Look, you've had a very successful career here, and you're very well respected, and I just, wanted to see maybe if I could have a cup of coffee with you and ask you a few questions about how to navigate my way around here." I guarantee you, unless they're just a total jerk weasel, I mean, they will jump at the opportunity. People love to give opinions about things, and if they have any kind of a soul in them, then they'll be happy to. And to me, though, they were the best sources of information, inside information, and just not just the here's how the company works type stuff. The vanilla brochure information, I call it. But they give you sort of the politics of the situation. Okay, here's who's friends with who, and here's who you can trust, and here's how here you got to be a little careful over in this department, and so on and so forth. And you won't get that information from your peers. You probably won't get it from your direct boss, because your direct boss is probably, if let's say they're in their 30s, they're looking to move up the ladder and they don't want to speak out of school. But the one who's like 68 or something, they don't care. They're happy to help. So, food for thought. Yikes, 18 and a half minutes. I've just been rambling here. So we'll cut it off here. Short video for the next one, and then we'll meet on Zoom. Thanks.